I remember you were quoted by saying that my preference has blinded me from complexity and the richness of the world. Give me a sense of how can you use randomness at work, in a work environment where we have this wheel going on and where I think a lot of people are suffering from it right now.
I think that there's so much of a focus on optimization in the workplace and cutting costs and reducing the time that it takes to do things. But that shields you from the serendipitous things that could push your business or your work into a creative new direction. And so I think that it's actually pretty healthy for business people to add a little bit of noise into their process and allow that sort of serendipity to emerge.
Do you have an example about what that noise could be?
Let me think. I think that, for instance, if your process is, if you have a very rigid process for how you do something, here's a good example. I once wrote a computer program that randomized my schedule. And so every day it would give me a schedule of what I should be doing at every moment that was completely randomly generated. And so it would have me sleeping from 3 a.m. to noon, and then working on things at different hours. And it was really difficult because it was completely different from my regular schedule. But it also opened up new ways of doing things, because if you're doing your work at 3 a.m. and there's other things going on in the world that don't usually overlap with your work schedule. And so that's kind of an extreme example, but I think that that illustrates how adding some randomness can shift your thinking.
Max, I love you for your courage. You just have to know that. Amazing. Now, listen, okay, coming up, our next guest argued that happiness as a goal is a recipe for disaster and claims that by restricting our options, we'll be able to choose less and feel better. Marshall, listen, I couldn't think about any other guest than Barry Schwartz to build on what Max is telling us.
Barry Schwartz is an amazing, amazing guy, and so excited to have him on our show. My next book is called The Earned Life. Barry's one of, I think, 4 people I quote in the book. So Barry, you're in very unique company. I'm not sure it's good or bad, but it's definitely unique. He's an expert on the intersection between psychology and economics. He's an author of The Paradox of Choice, which is one of my favorite books. Love that book. I'm here with my daughter, Kelly, one of her favorite books. And he talked about, don't use randomness as an excuse. Part of life is random. He doesn't deny that at all. Part of it's predictable. I love what he does. In fact, I love it so much that I decided that I wear the same green shirt every day. Just cut back on a little of that choice for me. Oh, so very, very, very welcome. And, Barry did a TED Talk that's amazing. I think this TED Talk says it all. So let's watch the TED Talk.
Escalation of expectations. This hit me when I went to replace my jeans. I wear jeans almost all the time, and there was a time when jeans came in one flavor, and you bought them, and they fit like crap, and they were incredibly uncomfortable, and if you wore them long enough and washed them enough times, they started to feel okay. So I went to replace my jeans after years and years of wearing these old ones, and I said, I want a pair of jeans, here's my size, and the shopkeeper said, do you want slim fit, easy fit, relaxed fit? You want button fly or zipper fly? You want stone washed or acid washed? Do you want them distressed? Do you want boot cut? Do you want tapered? Blah, 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 on and on. He went, my jaw dropped, and after I recovered, I said, I want the kind that used to be the only kind. He had no idea what that was. So I spent an hour trying on all these damn jeans, and I walked out of the store, truth with the best fitting jeans I had ever had. I did better. All this choice made it possible for me to do better. But I felt worse. Escalation.
I love that. I did better and I felt worse. I love that. Again, a big fan. Barry, why did it fit better and you feel worse?
Well, you know, as I told my audience, I spent 10 years trying to figure out the answer to that question and ended up writing a whole book. So here's what I think is going on. When the set of options we have is limited, our expectations about how good the option we choose will be is also limited. When there are 2 items on the menu, only a fool expects that whatever item they choose is going to be perfect. But when there are 200 items on the menu or 2,000 kinds of jeans, well, now all of a sudden, instead of expecting satisfactory, you expect perfect. And the jeans I bought were better than any I'd ever had, fit better than any I'd ever had, but they weren't perfect. And what happened was, because there were so many options, my expectations went up. And when you actually have the experience, what you ask yourself pretty much is this as good as I expected it to be? And so I have sometimes said the enemy of happiness is high expectations. If your expectations are modest, you can occasionally be pleasantly surprised. If your expectations are absurdly high, it's a recipe for disappointment. And that's what happened to me when I bought jeans. And I think it's what happens to a lot of us as we face a world of essentially unlimited options.
So we basically have to manage our own expectations. I remember you actually said once that everybody needs a fishbowl, which is kind of a sharp contrast to what Max is saying, or is it?
Well, so yeah, there's a cartoon I show of a parent fish and a baby fish in a little goldfish bowl, and the caption reads, "You can be anything you want to be, no limits." And we're supposed to laugh because in this fish bowl, it's nothing but limits. But what I came to realize is that we need a fish bowl. It needs to have more in it than those poor goldfish had. But when you shatter the fish bowl so that anything is possible, most of the things that are possible are bad. We need some predictability. We need some control over our lives. And that typically requires some kind of a fishbowl. And the challenge for social scientists, psychologists in particular, is to figure out what needs to be in the human fishbowl so that people can lead rich lives, but not lives that are paralyzed with uncertainty and anxiety and disappointment.